Pardon me.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, there was much excitement when Infrastructure Minister Anthony Albanese announced on 22 June 2012 that the federal government would contribute $50 million towards the redevelopment of Macquarie Point. People talked of how the precinct was the last big brownfield site in any capital and how more than $1 billion of investment would be unleashed. The Minister himself noted that, and I quote, "Sitting on the edge of the Derwent River right next to historic Constitution Dock and a stone's throw from the city centre, Macquarie Point is not just a city asset, it's a national asset. In real estate parlance, the site has it all: location, opportunity and availability." Quite rightly, Deputy Speaker, the Minister went on to add that while the design of the project was up to the people of Hobart, he said, quote, "Given the next stop south of Hobart is Antarctica, it makes sense part of it be considered for a tourist and scientific facility for Antarctic activity." But, Deputy Speaker, the people at the announcement ceremony who laughed at my quip, "Don't stuff it up," aren't laughing now, because here we are, more than a decade later, with virtually nothing except almost $40 million gone up in smoke. And that is an outrageous scandal for which the entire blame lies at the feet of a succession of Tasmanian governments, Liberal and Labor, all of whom have failed to take responsibility for the project, to grip it up and to lead it. Heavens, the redevelopment should have been finished by now. But what have we got? Nothing but a couple of Macquarie Point Development Corporation corporate headquarters, a couple of sheds, some garden beds and a new road that needs to be ripped up. Hopeless, Deputy Speaker. Just imagine what that $40 million could have achieved ripping into the elective surgery wait list. And just imagine how many years of dithering and squabbling could have been saved if the lengthy initial public consultation hadn't been abandoned, or if, right back at the start, or just about any time since, the Premier had ordered into the same room the heads of Tasrail, Taswater, Tasports, the Mayor and the head of the Macquarie Point Corporation and told them that they weren't leaving until they were all in agreement. That's what was required. But instead we've lurched from thought bubble to thought bubble. How about some Eden domes? No. How about we just drop everything and do what Mona wants? Although I must say that their proposed reconciliation park is important. And now the state government's latest idea is to build an AFL stadium with a staggering price tag of $750 million, or more likely well over $1 billion, to be funded largely by the taxpayer. Good grief, Deputy Speaker, what's next? A Ferris wheel or an interplanetary spaceport? No wonder now Prime Minister Albanese has described progress over the past 10 years as appalling and has urged the Tasmanian government to get on with the job. And no wonder, Deputy Speaker, that I've reached out to both the PM and the current Minister for Infrastructure and made it perfectly clear to both of them that I don't support the Tasmanian government's request for hundreds of millions of dollars to build the stadium. Not least because Mac Point is not the place for a stadium, because the precinct should be a free and accessible area for the whole of the community. Sure, many Tasmanians, including myself, would like a Tassie football team in the AFL. But I've also advised both the Prime Minister and the Minister for Infrastructure that Tasmania has so many more pressing issues, with more than 4,500 people on the public housing waiting list, a health system on the brink of collapse, chronic underfunding of education and increasing traffic congestion. Quite frankly, Deputy Speaker, if the state government has access to $750 million to spend on a stadium, more likely more than $1 billion by the time the damn thing's built, then they have $750 million or more to put into the services and infrastructure the Tasmanian community desperately needs. And that's what the vast majority of the community actually want. So, Deputy Speaker, until these issues are fixed, or at least put on a credible pathway to being fixed, I cannot and I will not support this outrageous misuse of taxpayer money. I urge the federal government to not be fooled by the Tasmanian government's grossly irresponsible con job and not hand over even 1 cent for the Macquarie Point Stadium project. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.